All right, so welcome everybody. And in case you didn't know, my name is Gabe Nocer. It's a pleasure to meet. I've met some of you and whoever else I haven't met before, welcome. And I'm really looking forward to teaching you all how to make money, at least in my mind. So basically, I'm going to go through my presentation. If at any time you guys have questions, just feel free to put it in the chat. Or raise your hand virtually, so to speak, and I will answer. And then at the end, I'll ask you again if you have any questions about anything else. So always feel free to open up. And yeah, I'm gonna get going with sharing my screen here. All right. Cool. So, as you know, this is all about to make more money. And my name is Gabe Nocer, a clear mind. I'm a transformative life coach, which I'll explain a little bit of my work as we get going in the presentation. I have a bachelor's in broadcast journalism, a master's degree in mental health counseling. I'm also a Reiki practitioner. I'm on my way to become a shamanic practitioner as well here in the next month. And I have a podcast. I haven't produced a new episode in quite a while, but I hosted a podcast called Clarity for Parents of Athletes. Basically, I interviewed high-level athletes about their parents and how they supported them throughout their journey, all with the idea of helping out parents today, which really benefits kids as well. And I'm also, I call myself a transformative DJ. I really love to take people on a journey through music because music is healing, movement is healing. So I can, send you the link, but you can also look it up, DJ Gabriel Angelo on SoundCloud. So enough about me. Talk about money. So first thing I'd like to bring to your attention is to figure out what is your personal relationship with money like, and to slow down and really try and remember, especially what is your earliest memory about money, going way back into childhood. And a lot of times it's our family's relationship with money that reflects upon us. So think about, what was your family's relationship with money like? Because it has an impact on you today, one way or another. And if you can think about that, what is that impact today? What are your thoughts about your financial situation right now, here in this moment? And what are your thoughts about money in general? People have an enormous variety of thoughts and beliefs about money. And we are programmed about this, about money and about everything, really, from our family, from our earliest caregivers. And that's usually going to be, of course, your parents. If you grew up with your parents, which some people obviously didn't, but whether you're adopted, orphan, or you had a single parent family with aunts and uncles in, those are your earliest caregivers. And no matter what, if it's about money or anything else in the world, you're going to be programmed into having your beliefs today based on your family members and the people you were around, especially from when you were 0 until about 7 years old. That's when you receive the most programming from your family and from your earliest caregivers, and then a little bit into your school as well. You're still receive programming after 7 years old, but it's most profound and locked in from 0 until about 7 years old. And then it becomes more about society. Now you become programmed by society as well, and culture. And I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. New Mexico is one of the most poor states in the country. And I hear there's a lot of talk about a scarcity mentality that goes on here. Since we're a poor state overall, the majority of people are really make up the energy of the collective. And so if there's a scarcity mentality with the majority, that energy is going to be passed on to a lot of other people, whether they're people that are in the quote unquote middle class, whatever that means anymore. I hear it a lot, even among the middle class. Oh, this is expensive. That's expensive. I can't believe how much things are. So your big community can have an impact on you. And so can your smaller community of your close-knit friends or people in your neighborhood, depending on if you live in this neighborhood or that neighborhood, they can have an impact on your programming as well, because you start to feed off of that energy of, do they have a scarcity mentality or is there an abundant mentality? Whether you live in New Mexico or let's say in San Francisco, one of the more expensive places to live, you're going to be programmed a little bit differently based on your community. And then, of course, we get programmed by media. You need this, you need that. Social media. Look at my life, my perfect life that I'm portraying, and all these places I get to go to, and all this food I get to eat, and all these things I get to do. And so you start to get programmed just by looking at that. And then all of a sudden, these thoughts start to creep into you. You're like, oh, I want my life like that, right? And it starts to lead into a scarcity mentality, which is the opposite of what we're trying to do here to bring in more money, because then you're focusing on the lack that's going on in your life. And you can imagine that's, the opposite of what you want to do. You want to see things with abundance as much as possible. Now, luckily for you, you are the one who programmed yourself ultimately by your thoughts and beliefs. So, if we go back to this idea of, you're looking at social media, you have a choice to say, well, look at them and look at my life. And you start comparing yourself to somebody else, or, right. And then you start feeling down about yourself, or you can look at something and use it as inspiration. Be like, that's awesome. Those people get to experience that. I also want to experience something like that as well. So your thoughts and your beliefs really are more profound right now as you are an adult. And it's about learning how to use that and how to shift your thoughts and your beliefs to your advantage. Now, these thoughts and beliefs, they're either conscious or unconscious. Conscious, we're aware of what our thinking is, and unconscious, we're sometimes slightly aware or sometimes completely oblivious to why we think about things. And here are a few examples. This is a pretty common conscious one that I hear. Money is the root of all evil. Okay, some people believe that. I know people, I have family members that believe in that kind of stuff. I personally don't. Because I see everything as neutral, or I try to see everything as much as possible as neutral. But that's a very common conscious one, right? People have this idea like, oh no, money's evil because look what these people are doing with all their money. People with this much money, they're just evil. They can't be good. You shouldn't have this much money. An unconscious one is, I don't deserve money. And I say it's unconscious because very few people, maybe some people consciously would be like, no, I don't deserve money and I'm good. I don't need any. But on an unconscious level, which we're unaware of, people tell themselves this deep, deep, deep down inside, that you don't deserve happiness, you don't deserve joy, you don't deserve love, and you don't deserve money. You don't deserve good food or good experiences, vacations, whatever it is. That is an unconscious belief, and it's really based on going way back into childhood and feeling as if you didn't get some sort of love, or that things were withheld because you didn't deserve those things as a child because you were a bad child or whatever. There's so many different methods into leading into these unconscious beliefs. And I don't want to get too deep into your personal therapy right here, right now, at least. But I think you start to get to know what I mean here, right? With the unconscious belief that I don't deserve money. Here's some more. Nobody will ever pay this amount, right? That's just a conscious belief, kind of dipped into unconscious, maybe as well. Everything is overpriced. There's not enough. I don't have enough. They don't have enough. And then here's a big one that I keep hearing. Money can't buy happiness. And it's true. Money can't buy happiness. And money can buy things that help you to live a more comfortable life, like having enough food, having good healthcare, having a stable living environment. If you don't have those, it just adds to your stress. So while money doesn't directly buy happiness, money can buy things that lead you to living a life that's more comfortable and more, and can lead into more joyous thoughts and feelings. So directly doesn't buy happiness. You can see some of the most rich people in the world, right, are probably the least happy people. Some of them, not all of them, but again, money can buy things which make our lives comfortable, easier to live. And you see what I mean, where I'm going for that, right? In reality, really everything is neutral. Your thoughts make them either positive or negative. Everything is neutral. Let's just say, let's take, for example, a Ferrari, right? It's a neutral car. A lot of people like it, right? But it's their thoughts that make it either positive or negative. I'm personally pretty neutral to a Ferrari. I don't care. Some people would, do anything to have a Ferrari. And some people have a Ferrari and they enjoy it for a little while. And then it's just like another car to them. I don't know any of those people personally, but I'm sure they exist, right? Because the car itself is neutral. Any car is neutral. It's just what people personally believe that makes it either positive or negative, right? And those things change from person to person, and those things change over time as well. Just like my example, somebody gets a brand new Ferrari, and then after a few months, it's just another car to them. So again, everything is neutral. You can look at everything like that. Your thoughts change over time. It changes over person to person. And you could like a Ferrari when you're 10 years old, think it's the coolest thing in the world. And then when you're, let's say after midlife crisis time, 60, 70, you're planning for retirement, maybe Ferrari's not so enticing anymore. So your thoughts can change throughout your lifetime as well, right? Now, going back to some more conscious and unconscious thoughts and beliefs about money, is people have this. I hear people say these things. I am. You can be poor, or I don't have enough, or I'm bad or terrible with whatever it is, in this case, money, right? And I hear that from people. I'm so bad with organizing money, with staying on top of my bills. These statements all lead to a scarcity mentality. And I want to give you major caution here. Be extremely careful how you use the words I am, or things that are similar to it, like, or I should be, or I shouldn't be, or I shouldn't have, or I should have. So I urge you to don't should on yourself, I call it, but then also be very, very careful how you use the words I am. As soon as you say I am, you're programming yourself into believing whatever it is you're trying to tell yourself. So I'm poor, or I'm not good enough at this, or I'm not good at that enough at that. Your spirit, your cells in your body listen to those things. And I work a lot with teenagers, especially because they beat themselves up quite a bit. Children in general do. Some adults do, of course, right? And I say, be careful how you use the words I am, because you're casting a spell onto you and you start to believe those things on a deep, deep level. And it's hard to dig yourself out of that. But luckily, you can use your words. And what I urge you to do is probably the most peaceful thing to do is to say, I am presence. Anytime you're present in the present moment, you're bringing yourself back into a state of neutrality and trust. But you can also feed yourself beautiful affirmations of like, I am worthy of receiving money, or whatever it is that you want. And I'm going to say this quite a bit here in the rest of the presentation. Don't just say those things. Feel them. So if you want to say, I am able to receive money, I am able to make a lot of money, to sit there, don't just say the words, but to feel it. That really adds to the energy and your belief in your ability to yourself. You start to resonate with the energy of the universe into creating an abundant mentality, which is the opposite of a scarcity mentality. So be very cautious. The words I am, again, it's like casting a spell on yourself. You can do it for things that aren't very helpful, or things that will help you in the future. Now, when you start to beat yourself up, it's essentially your ego that is acting up. Everybody has an ego. It's okay. It's not going anywhere. It's just a matter of getting to know your ego, knowing when your ego is speaking, and then knowing how to use your ego for your advantage, and to also really pay attention to when it's screaming. So your ego is your personal defense mechanism that's designed to keep you, quote unquote, safe by always trying to prove that you are good enough or loved enough. And I put the word safe in quotations because your ego, the biggest fear of the ego is not being good enough, which really means not being loved enough. So anytime you risk stepping outside of your comfort zone, that's a chance for your ego to say, hey, this is the safe place. We don't want to go here because we could mess up, and then think about what others are going to think about us, or what we could lose, right? Or we don't have control over this situation, so let's really try and control it to try and keep us safe. Your ego works in a lot of really interesting ways. So again, it's your personal defense mechanism. It's one way to understand if your ego is speaking is, how do you feel on the inside? Or how does your body feel physically? If you are experiencing a lower range of emotions like shame or guilt or anger, those kind of lower frequencies, then it's a very good chance that your ego is the one talking, because your ego can sometimes sound very, very convincing, right? And we can believe like, oh no, let's not take this risk. In order to make money, you have to take risks sometimes. So just start to pay attention when your ego is talking. Again, you'll feel kind of negative feelings. I put those in quotes, right? And it's usually led by fear. So just pay attention. Start to really pay attention when your ego is talking, because everybody has one. And it's really easy to be convinced that it's not your ego, that it's your higher self. Your ego is your false sense in self, and your essentially your true essence, your highest essence, comes from love. Ego comes from fear, and your heart and your highest essence, your highest purpose in life, comes from your heart always. So it's going to make you feel good. Your ego often holds you back from feeling worthy and deserving, which that leads to not enough belief in what you do and not able to operate from the highest version of yourself. So that's your true self. Again, ego is your false self. The highest version of yourself is your true self. That's the one that's going to make money. Sometimes your ego can make money too if you really push yourself from a negative point of view, but it's not going to be sustainable. It's not going to be enjoyable. There's no sense in making more money if it doesn't make you happy with what you're doing, right? Now, how much your ego influences your life, it depends on the types and the severity of your childhood experiences and traumas, and manifests in 7 different ways throughout your life. I'll get to those in a second, but I just wanted to talk about this. The trauma is really a subjective word. So many people experience trauma, but I know some people that don't believe. They'll say, oh no, that person's trauma is more serious than mine, so I don't deserve to feel any kind of trauma or have any kind of bad feelings about my childhood experiences. It doesn't matter. Your traumas are your traumas compared to somebody else's traumas. If you grew up in a war-torn country, but then you were maybe verbally abused at home or physically abused at home, who's to say what's right or wrong? Trauma is trauma. And again, everybody's different. There could be 10 people who experience war in some kind of country in the Middle East, and they all have 10 different experiences as they get older as an adult. So there's a lot of fluidity. It's not saying like, oh, if you experience this, then you're going to experience this as you become an adult. It's a variety. So, but your ego will manifest in 7 different ways. And before I show them to you, as a child and getting into teenage years, you will experiment with all of these 7 things until you really settle in on about 1 or 2 of them that you carry on in your adult life. And you can still experience a little bit of them, but you have 2 more prominent ones. And that is self-destruction. This is how your ego shows up. Self-destruction is somebody who really destroys himself physically, whether it can be with alcohol, drugs, food, money, sometimes, living dangerously physically. That's self-destruction. It's essentially especially with people who are alcoholics, it's a slower way of committing suicide. Sometimes there's a fast way of doing it, but that's a very typical example of somebody in self-destruction who just can't stop drinking. They know it's more difficult. It's not good for their body, but they have a difficult time stopping it. Then there's greed, right? There's never enough. There's never enough money. There's never enough time. There's never enough food or whatever it is. So they have a never-ending thirst to quench something inside of them with something they're always looking for from the outside. And it's never ending, whether it can be relationships, whatever it is, always wanting to have something, some sort of experience. Then there's self-deprecation. Those are people who use the negative I am statements, right? I'm not good enough, or I'm stupid. They put themselves down, sometimes verbally, outwardly towards others about themselves, or it just beats themselves up on the inside quite a bit. Now, the opposite of that is arrogance, and that's very prominent in the world that I usually dabble in, which is the sports world, where it's people have a much easier time with their ego to be arrogant. It's more socially acceptable in a lot of realms in the sports realm, but in a lot of other areas as well, because it's hard to be a successful high-level athlete if they're in self-deprecation, which ironically they are in self-deprecation, but it just comes out as arrogance, right? That they're better than other people. And that's typically what we think about with ego, is the arrogant person. But as you can see here, it comes out in a lot of different ways. So that's arrogance, right? The feeling that I'm better than you and my way is better. And then there's martyrdom. This is the victim of like, oh, look at what happened to me. And they just continue with this story, feeling badly about themselves and trying to pull other people to believe that, you know, they're to kind of join their pity party, so to speak. And then there's impatience. These people are like always rushing through things and, you know, can't stop themselves from trying to experience things like without slowing down. So that's a way your ego goes in as well. Or sometimes, you know, you can say, oh, no, this isn't good for me and I'm out of here, without really thinking things through. And then there's stubbornness. This is kind of like my way is the highway kind of thing. And I'm going to do this no matter if it's good for me or not. And that's like more the unconscious, right? They're just staying firm in their beliefs and won't bend. So these are the 7 different ways your ego shows up. Again, throughout your lifetime, you kind of play around with those, and then you settle in on a couple of those primarily as you get older as an adult. So that's the way your ego shows up. Now, your ego really feeds off of this illusion here. How you experience life. Your ego believes that you experience life from the outside in. This is the belief that people, experiences, sometimes accomplishments, anything outside of you directly leads to your feeling. And I, want to stress the term directly leads, because you're always experiencing life with your thinking. And that's the inside out reality. So your feelings come from your thoughts. So let's say, you have money, right? Your feelings, money doesn't directly lead to your feelings. You don't just get money and say, oh, I'm happy now. You get money and then you have a thought about it, just like that, based on your programming and what you believe about money. And then you have an experience, you have some kind of feeling from that. So your feelings come from your thoughts. You're only ever experiencing your thinking in every single moment in time. And again, this is based on your programming that you received as a child, right? That sets the tone. And then everything that you start to experience in your life can lead to your thinking. And then the highest version of yourself, which comes from your heart, right? It operates when you're completely aware of this, that your experience comes from the inside out. The more you can be conscious of this and to understand this, then you start to raise your frequency. If you start to dip down and start to believe like, oh, that person upset me, or the fact that my bank account looks like this, then your ego starts to take over, right? You start to believe like, oh, it's because I'm unhappy because of the amount of money in my bank, or because of what my boss told me, or what this customer told me, or with this review I got, or whatever it is, right? But the more you can understand and hold that power within yourself, that you are fully responsible for your experience, that's when you start to increase your frequency. And I'll talk more about that, why that's so important. But you want to be up here essentially in order to start to attract more money into your life instead of down here. Now, what you really want, and this is based on the fact that you're experiencing your thinking, right? You don't want actual money, the paper, or I guess more now the plastic, or the digitized version and crypto, or what's in your bank account. What you're really searching for is you're searching for a feeling that you get from having more money and what that money buys, right? Like food at the grocery store, or trips, or experiences. That's what you're really looking for, is the feeling you get from those things. Like, I guess maybe some people just want to have money and be like, okay, yeah, look at this stockpile of money I have, right? And I'm searching for that experience just to have money itself. But really, in reality, that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for the feeling that you get. You're always in search for a feeling. And you can start to emanate that feeling now without your money ever changing. And why that's important is you can spend time feeling into the feelings you want to experience that money buys, but not the money itself. You can start to radiate that energy, because what money actually is, it's an exchange of energy. It's a frequency, just like lights, these lights in this room. It is an energy. And what was really crazy to me when I learned this was like, that's why it's called currency, because it's supposed to flow just like the energy, right? It's supposed to come in and out, and we have an exchange of it. That's why it's called currency. Mind blown, I know. So the more that you believe in exchanging that frequency with others, the more you open yourself up to more coming to you. It's just that simple. But if you cut off that energy, right? If you hold on too tightly onto money, right, it cuts off the flow of energy of receiving that. Of course, it's got to be all within reason. I'm not saying to just go out and give away all your money and go blow your money and, just be undisciplined with it. But sometimes we hold on to money too tightly when we could be benefiting from exchanging it with others, especially people who aren't as fortunate to give to them. Or what I love to do, I love to tip people well, assuming we have good service at a restaurant. But because I know that to give is to receive as well. The more you can understand in this exchange, that money is an exchange in frequency with others, more will flow into your life, as long as you trust it, because you can go shaking and be like, I really don't want to give this to you. But then, you're opening up the exchange a little bit, but you're not truly trusting. The more you can just be like, hey, I'm giving without a need to receive anything, because I know this is a frequency. The universe will respond to you. It's really amazing. Like, trust me, this happened in my life, throughout a lot of my life, actually. So the important thing is you must believe, and it's so crucial to not just believe in your brain and with your thinking, but to feel it. Feel that you deserve money and sit there. What does that feel like? And spread that feeling throughout your body. Now, you can also feel that there is enough for you and everybody else out there. There's no shortage of money. Maybe with inflation, it may seem like it, but really there's not, right? Feel and believe that money comes to you. This is one of my favorite things. And luckily I picked this up when I was pretty young. It's like money just seemed to come to me. And I still believe that money comes to me. Now, I've had some dark times in my life financially, a lot of stress, especially during the pandemic. But ultimately, the more I just sat with that feeling, the more money just naturally came to me. It always seemed to come to me at the right time. And if you can really believe that and feel that, it'll start to flow to you more often. So again, another thing, the universe has always taken care of you and will continue to do so. And even more once you really start to emanate that feeling. So the fact that you have a computer, that you have internet connection, just shows that the universe is taking care of you. And again, you can open yourself to being taken care of more in even greater ways if you really start to implement this belief. And the feeling behind it is so, so crucial. Here's another one. Be open to receiving, because a lot of times we're not fully open, right? We believe maybe on an unconscious level, again, going back to a few slides ago, maybe we don't deserve to receive this amount of money. We don't deserve to make this amount of money, whatever it is. So be open to receiving. And again, believe it mentally, but then feel it. What does that feel like to be open to receiving? Receiving feels amazing. And the more you give, the more you receive. Again, all within reason. Don't just go crazy with money and just being like, hey, Gabe said to do this. We're giving away all our money. That's not what I'm talking about. But just feel free to understand it's a frequency and it's important to exchange. So that brings me to the discipline of money. These are my thoughts and what I do. Really focus in on treating your money kindly, to be organized with it and spend time weekly knowing your financial situation. I geek out on this kind of stuff. That's my brain personally. It's not for everybody, but I just love it just to make sure I'm staying organized. Paper money is kind of seems like phasing out a little bit, but I love to put my dollar bills in numerical sequence, all facing the same way. That way it's easy to find. But also what it does is it tells me to be organized with my money. And the more organized, the more love you show your money, and essentially removing clutter, like your money is clutter, and keeping it nice and organized and neat, money will respond to you. Same way digitally as well. The more on top of your things, without stressing, without being overly stressed, but the more you're on top of your finances and just always focusing in on gratitude and appreciation, the more it'll come back to you. That feeling does. That's the frequency as well. That keeps your frequency up high. Again, if you start to overly stress about money, you start to dip into a scarcity mentality. That's your ego. So be very, very cautious. You have a nice balance of being organized, but not being obsessed about your financial situation. Now, as much as possible, I know this isn't easy for everybody, especially in this kind of society and culture, but do your best to stay out or get out of debt, but make sure to invest in your well-being, especially your physical and mental health. Those kind of things help to keep your frequency high. And it's very, very important to do those kind of things. So if you're going to take risky investments, make sure that your health and your wellness are one of those things. It comes back to you so much more because your spirit and your soul are telling yourself like, oh, look how much I care about myself, that I'm investing in myself in this way. And of course, as you can imagine, staying out of debt keeps your stress levels down low. Now, again, that can be hard sometimes in this kind of society, depending on what kind of life that you're living. But just my advice. Now, these days and age, there's so many different subscriptions. It's a good question to ask. Are you leaking the energy of money in your life? Are you spending unnecessarily? Like the fact that there's an app to keep track of your subscriptions tells me that there's a lot of people probably leaking a lot of money on these subscriptions. Now, the items that don't increase your well-being, especially in the long term, those kind of things, kind of see if you can cut them out. They can be energy leaks, and you can have a couple small energy leaks throughout your life, and that's going to lower your frequency. So the more you can just let go of those things, and it's just going to raise the quality of what you're doing. Again, me personally, I love to invest in my physical and mental health with good food, talking to different practitioners, having those kind of experiences, because I know that my frequency will be much higher and I'll be able to attract what I want in life. That's not the only reason I do it. I just feel really good. Now, if you're an emotionally centered person, and this is what I mean by emotionally centered, if you see something and your emotions be like, oh, I've got to have that, don't make impulse buys, especially with larger purchases. Sit and wait until the emotions have calmed down, and then you're at a much more neutral place. And if you find yourself, you still want the thing, then go for it. Again, this is just advice. This is, take it or leave it. Now, if you're an intellectually centered person like me, try not to be too rigid, because, you can go into thought, be like, well, do we really need that? This is why I don't really need that. And this is my reasoning. And a lot of times that rigidity can be because you're not trusting in the flow of money. Now, sometimes there are logical reasons to not purchase things, of course. Sometimes the emotions we get from something do make us want to buy them. So it's all that balance of not being too impulsive about purchases and not being too rigid about not purchasing something. But again, the more you can invest yourself into having amazing experiences, right? Or investing in your well-being, as opposed to buying certain things that you're trying to make yourself feel good because you want others to approve of you, whether it's, a certain car or certain pieces of clothing or whatever it is. Those kind of purchases, I'd be very conscious of like, why are you really buying that, right? Again, food for thought. Now, whatever you do, make sure that you spend money to nurture yourself every once in a while. That's well-being. Getting a massage, buying some coffee or some other treats, or taking that nice vacation. This nurtures yourself, which is the key to self-love. Self-love is one of the highest frequencies that you can have. And this is all about raising frequency. Remember, this is an energy exchange. You have higher energy, then you're going to start to receive that. The universe is going to start responding to your energy. If you have lower energy, based on your ego, the universe responds to that as well, right? If you have a scarcity mentality, you're going to experience a lot of scarce in your life. Everything is a balancing act. So it's a balance of spending, but then also saving, doing, but also just being, and putting things into action, but allowing things to unfold. It's a really delicate balance, all those things. You don't want someone that's going to overspend, or someone that's so rigid and that's going to oversave, because that's not allowing the flow of energy to go. Because energy, there needs to be an exchange, of course, but there has to be discipline within it as well. Essentially respecting the money, not just going out buying a bunch of things and then food going to waste, or buying too many of this or that or whatever, and you're not respecting your money because it's something that you didn't really need in the first place. So it's all a balancing act in life. Not one too much on one side, not too much on the other. Now, sometimes in life, you have to grind it out. You have to get that extra job in order to get out of debt, or to pay bills, or whatever it is, in order to get yourself to that next level. You have to grind it out sometimes. Now, if you do that, if you find yourself in this situation, it's okay. The biggest thing to really focus on is it's always important to keep your frequency high. And best way to do that is with gratitude and love. So instead of saying, oh, I have to go get this second job so I can buy this or pay for that, it's like, hey, I am taking myself to the next level, and I'm loving that I'm doing that. It can be really hard for a lot of people to be in gratitude and love with doing something they may not ideally want to do. But the more you can focus on doing anything in your life with gratitude and love, again, it brings your frequency up high, and you'll be able to start manifesting and creating abundance in all the areas of your life. Now, here are some of my personal top tips for making more money. Number one is going into gratitude. Sit in gratitude with what you already have as much as possible. I'm going to say this several times. In order to do that, slow down and really feel that feeling deeply. So often we're just rushing throughout our day that we don't take enough time to just feel into, like, I'm really grateful for what I have in this life. Gratitude and love, again, create your frequency and bring your frequency up high. That's the energy that you need in order to make more money. Is you've got to start beaming up here more and more often. So sit in gratitude with what you have. Every day, feel into the feeling of being open to receiving more money. This is really, really important. And again, I repeat this because it's so important. Slow down and feel that feeling deeply. What does it feel like to be open to receiving? Really amazing when that happens. Really amazing. Whenever you pay a bill or anything else, you're buying something, feel into gratitude that you are receiving whatever it is in exchange for the money. Whether you're paying for your crazy electric bill, or, we're heading into the winter time, be your natural gas bill, right? Don't just be like, I can't believe I have to pay for this. I really hate it. Really feel into just the appreciation. Hey, this is keeping me warm. This is keeping the lights on. This is watering my beautiful yard and my plants and keeping my animals healthy. And I get to shower, whatever it is. Feel into gratitude every time you pay for something. Try it for a short period of time to see how you feel. And if you've noticed any kind of difference, it does make a big difference. Again, it keeps your energy high. I'm going to keep saying this. Your energy is high. You can start to attract things at a higher level, higher frequency. Now, here is something that I accidentally kind of found, and then I heard somebody else mention it on something I was watching. But it's essentially using these words. It would be nice if fill in the blank. Just say, some great investment opportunity came to me, or if this car appeared in my life, wouldn't it be nice to have one of those cars, or whatever, and just remove the attachment from it. Almost forget about it. Put it out there. This has worked for me so many times. It's crazy. It would be nice if blank, and then just let it go. The more you're attached to something, to money or anything that it is, the more likely your ego will get involved, because it can lead to fear and scarcity and feeling of lack of not having those things, right? When you want something so badly, you hold on to it so tightly, right? It's hard to really get a good grip because it can slip through your fingers quite often, right? Especially if it's wet or slimy or something. So I hope you get my point that I'm making there. Again, the more attached you are to anything, but especially money, the more your ego will want to get involved. So this is about like putting it out there and just trusting, putting it out there and letting go, and just allowing the universe to do its thing while you doing your part. You can't just be like, all right, I want to make $1 million, then I'm going to go sit here in this chair waiting for $1 million to come to me. It's all about that balance. But if you put it out there, the right things, the right people start to come into your life. And if you start to believe that, and then you start to do your part, whatever the universe is asking for you, that's that balance of doing and being, right? But again, be unattached to it. Allow it to flow. This is another one that has really worked for me profoundly. Now you can write what you want for yourself and spend time, again, feeling the feeling deeply. So write down on some kind of piece of paper, I am so grateful and thankful now that whatever it is, I have a new house, or I have a new car, or I made $1 million, whatever it is. Write it down and then write a date on it and post it where you can see it. And again, this date can be whatever. Just throw it out there, be unattached to it. If you surpass that date, it's okay. Just hold on to that piece of paper and just feel it. Feel it deeply every once in a while when you look at it. The more energy and feeling you put into it within yourself, the more likely it's going to happen. Trust me. Now, here's something, a little area that I have. This is based on feng shui. Set up an area in the southeast section of your room or your house that is dedicated to your finances, like almost like a little shrine. And keep this area clutter-free. Here's mine. And these are little things that I picked up throughout my lifetime. You can see I have 3 4-leaf clovers. There was a young man, or actually he was a boy at the time, but he gave me this amazing gift when I was coaching him. It was these 4-leaf clovers. And I've had this thing, let's see, he's probably like 30 now. I think he gave it to me when he was like 14. So, about 15, 16 years. Because 4-leaf clovers bring good luck. And I put it in the southeast corner because I knew that area is dedicated to, at least in the feng shui belief, that it's dedicated to money. You see I have a little Buddha there as well. I have some fake money, as well as fool's gold. And then there's like a little seed. I can't remember what the name of the tree it's from, but it's supposed to bring abundance into your life. And I have some Chinese coins there. And this thing on the left side is actually a little Lego figure that my son made me, and he naturally just put it on there. Maybe in an unconscious way, he knew what it was for, but he made it out of love for me. So I've kept it there. It's been like several years since I've had this thing. And I want to keep it there because it represents love. And love is, again, it's a high frequency. And so there's like this natural feeling that I get in that area when I see this Lego thing that he made for me. And then on the right side, I have a little sign there that came with like a piece of something that I bought for somebody, a piece of jewelry, I think. So there are no boundaries to the possibilities and opportunities I will achieve. I am one. There's the I am, right? The programming. I am one with the divine spirit of the universe. And then below that is, it's kind of like a little thing to bring prosperity, but it's a design from the Shipibo tribe of Peru that was gifted to me as well. So just a little area in the south, again, in the southeast section of your room, to just focus on that, and make sure keep it clutter-free, dust-free as much as possible. Now, some more tips. Spend as much of your time as possible in the frequency of love. Again, it's one of the highest frequencies that you can have, and you'll start to attract a lot more if you spend as much time in that frequency of love. Now, that can be a hard thing, but essentially, the frequency of love, and it really starts with self-love. I'm not talking about waiting for someone to love you or that you love somebody else. It is important to love other people, but it has to be rooted in self-love. Because even if you want to love somebody else, if you don't love yourself at a high level, you won't be able to open yourself up to receiving, or to giving or receiving very much love. So the self-love has to come within you, right? This is the inside out experience. Essentially, it's ideal to generate enough self-love to where something on receiving love from the outside of you is just kind of like icing on the cake, right? You already have this beautiful cake of your life. So the more time you can spend in self-love, and especially feeling into what it feels like to love yourself and treat yourself well, physically, emotionally, mentally, that's when miracles happen. And then things start to come to you a lot quicker. This is when you're able to trust and relax and let the universe work for you. And it's an amazing feeling. It's really challenging to get there, especially without help. But when you are there, that's when things start to come much more easily into your life and much more quickly. You're able to manifest and generate these things, generate more abundance, because you fully trust and you start to get that balance of doing and being. That's really, really amazing. And again, it's not easy, but I'm going to give you kind of like a backwards step of how to get there. So here you have at the highest, right? The ideal is to get to that frequency of love as much as possible, that self-love. In order to get there, it has to come from forgiveness. This isn't just about forgiveness of others, which is really crucial part in getting to that frequency of love and staying in that frequency of love, but it's really forgiveness of yourself and not judging yourself anymore, forgiving yourself for judging yourself for anything. Your road to more joy, more enlightenment, more happiness is paved by the road of forgiveness, really. It always has to be. And we'll go, this could be a whole other program, which I'll show you here in a little bit, about forgiveness and getting into that frequency of love much more. But it's a really, really important step. Now, before you can forgive, you have to be aware of the fact that you can actually do this. You can actually take the steps, and you can be in awareness of when you're judging yourself and when you are judging others and when you're not being kind to yourself, because without that awareness, being unconscious about it, you can't get to that frequency of love. It's really, really challenging. So again, that awareness helps you understand that you can get there. And when you're not getting there, it is totally possible. But again, you have to be aware that you can actually do this kind of stuff. And before that awareness, you need to be willing to change. And not just willing, because we can say, yeah, I want to change, I want to experience life from a higher frequency, but you have to be disciplined on what to do, what it takes. And those are the exercises that I recommended. So again, it goes willingness, then your awareness of when you're not doing your stuff to get you into a place of forgiveness, which eventually gets into that place and that higher energy and that frequency of love. Now, a big part of this is believing in this process. This really, really works. It's part of the willingness, is to stepping into that belief that this stuff really does work. Take those small steps into it, especially, just for example, of being grateful whenever you pay for something or buy something. Sit there and just feel that energy of feeling gratitude, instead of being like, look how much this, I like this vegan feta. It's gone crazy. It's like now $6.75 at the grocery store. And I just look at it neutrally. I'm like, okay, that's just the price of what it is. But, a couple years ago, it was like $4. So I could go in there and be like, I can't believe how much this feta is. I'm still going to buy it, but I'm going to be angry about it. So just be disciplined in approaching things neutrally and just being grateful for whatever it is that you're spending on. And again, you're having this exchange. You're not just throwing money away, you're giving money and you're receiving something in return. You're giving money to a place that is employing the person that's checking you out or whatever it is. There's so much to be grateful for in life. So, big part of the willingness, being aware that your ego wants to hold you back into lower frequencies. It'll convince you that you don't have enough time or money, especially. Because remember, your ego wants to protect you. It doesn't want you to go to the next level, because what if you fail? Then you will feel even worse about yourself. Right? That's what the ego does. It's very similar to somebody told me, my coach told me, of the crab in the bucket. Where if you have a bunch of crabs that are in a bucket, one is trying to get out, there's going to be one below it that's going to grab it and pull it back in with them. That's what your ego does to you. So it's going to convince you like you don't have the time or the money to do this, or you don't believe in the process. And then you may do it for a little bit, but then your ego will be like, no, we're going back over here because this is a little too much. This is safer over here. We don't want to make fools out of ourselves, right? What do these people think about us? What could we lose in all this? So it's very, very tricky there. Now, again, a big way to keep your frequency high is focus on your physical, emotional, and mental health in order to keep your frequency high. I can't stress this enough in your life. Now, this does take work. It does take discipline. But the more you can do that and to really focus in on keeping that frequency high, that is going to lead you on that path to feeling and tuning into as much love, which is the highest frequency. That's when things really start to flow. If you treat your body well, treat your mind well, and understand your emotions and to navigate through them properly, you will naturally be attracted to more and better things. It's just the way it is. Now, I wanted to show you a little bit about this program that I'm running. It's called A Fulfilled Man. It starts in September. It's a completely virtual program. It includes group coaching calls with me, and it's designed to skyrocket your wealth, health, relationships, and your confidence. It keeps you in that energy, that high energy. And this is not just for men. This is for women as well. It just happens to be more targeted towards men, but women can get tremendous amount of benefit from it as well. And right now, I'm offering an early bird price of $297, which ends on August 31st. And then the full price, you can see it's going up pretty significantly, about $300 for the program starting September 1st. So the program itself starts September 27th, so there's still time. But I urge you, if you want to get that early bird price in, you have a couple more days to do that. And here's just a couple of examples of different things that I'm going to be covering. So there's basically 4 main modules full of amazing information. But module 1 is how to take full responsibility for your experience in life and how to hold on to your personal power. It's a lot of, I dabbled a little bit of the information tonight. It's going to be in this, but we're going to go much more in depth, including giving you different tips on how to go from upset or anxious to neutral and relaxed in just 1 minute, and just a ton more information that'll help you keep your frequency high. And we talked a little bit about energy leaks. So that's one of the modules as well, is to identify your energy leaks, like your thoughts and your habits, especially, and let go of those things that don't serve you anymore, and make room for more abundance. Because once you let go of those kind of lower frequency thoughts and habits, you open yourself up automatically to higher frequencies. And again, higher frequency, you start to attract things, more money, more experiences, whatever it is, more love, anything within your life, as long as you start to really vibrate at a higher level. So module 3 is to turn it up even more and attract more of what you want into your life. And then module 4 is stepping into your true self. Remember, your true self, your highest version of yourself, where you'll live your life more from that highest version instead of the limited version, which is like crippled by your ego. So again, early bird price is available until August 31st. And then the full price will go September 1st, and the program starts on the 27th. So I really hope you would join it, of course. And I wanted to give you just a little bit of my contact information. I'll send this out as well, so you'll always be able to contact me at any time. But I'd love to answer any questions that you may have at all. Anyone have questions? Oh, there's one. Sorry, I didn't see this in the chat. Oh, just got a little smiley face there. Thank you, Jayla. All right. Any questions?
No questions, but just this has been great. Thank you so much for the seminar. I got a couple of pointers there, a couple of things that I'm going to apply myself.
Great.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, if you need any assistance, make sure and reach out. Just shoot me a message and let me know if you have any questions.
Definitely. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Daniel. All right, everybody, and everybody who's watching the recording, I appreciate your time and your energy, and feel free to reach out to me. I'm always here for you. All right.